The phone fell away from my ear as Pamela's words registered. Your sister contacted our marketing team, raised ethical concerns about hiring family members, showed them amateur photos claiming they were your work. My vision narrowed to the Thompson Industries contract on my desk, the one I'd spent 6 months pursuing, the cornerstone account that would finally establish my photography studio as a legitimate business, the crisp black ink of their signature, not even dry yet, blurred as my eyes filled with tears. Outside my window, I could see the brand new equipment I'd invested in. Professional lighting, backdrops, the works, equipment I'd purchased on credit, believing the Thompson contract would cover the payments, the contract Sarah had just destroyed. That's not all, Pamela continued, her voice tight with anger. She suggested they hire Olivia instead. You know, her friend who just started dabbling in photography last month. My name is Rachel. I'm 32 and a professional photographer. This is the story of how I reclaimed my reputation from the sister who tried to destroy it. When Sarah dropped by my studio unannounced last week, wearing that condescending smile that always made me feel 2 inches tall, I should have recognized the danger signs. She'd swept her gaze around my newly renovated space, taking in the professional equipment and sleek portfolio displays. "Oh, sweetie," she'd said, her tongue dripping with condescension. "Still playing with your little camera? I thought you'd have grown out of that hobby by now." "It's not a hobby, Sarah," I'd replied, forcing myself to stay calm. "I just landed the Thompson Industries account." Her eyes had widened briefly before she masked her reaction. "Really? How interesting. Terrence and I were just talking about how vital image is in the professional world. I should have seen it then." The calculation behind her smile, the slight narrowing of her eyes when I mentioned Thompson Industries, Sarah had always been competitive, always needed to be the successful sister. But this was different. This was deliberate sabotage. That night, Victor found me in my home office, staring at my now empty booking calendar. My husband's face softened as he took in my red-rimmed eyes. "Engine of my life," he said gently, using his cheesy nickname for me. "Talk to me." I poured out the whole story, my voice breaking as I described Sarah's betrayal. Victor listened intently, his mechanic's hands gently massaging my shoulders. "She's always been competitive, but this," I trailed off, gesturing helplessly at my computer screen. "This is my livelihood, Victor. She knew exactly what she was doing." Without hesitation, Victor pulled out his phone. "Let me make some calls." I watched him, a plan already forming in my mind. "No," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. "I need to handle this myself." The next morning, I made 2 critical decisions. First, I called William at Thompson Industries. Not the marketing team Sarah had poisoned, but the CEO himself. I'd photographed his daughter's wedding last year as a favor before I'd even opened my studio. This connection gave me direct access to him, despite the sabotage. "William," I said, when his secretary put me through, "I need 15 minutes of your time." An hour later, I sat across from him, my portfolio open between us, along with printouts of Sarah's text messages to Olivia that detailed her entire sabotage plan. Olivia had forwarded them to me that morning, along with a mortified apology. "I had no idea she was using me to hurt you," Olivia had written. "I would never have agreed to this if I'd known." William studied the evidence, his expression darkening. "Your sister works at Parkside Medical with Dr. Terrence Jackson, correct?" I nodded, surprised he knew. "Terrence sits on our board," William explained. "I'll handle this personally." My second decision was more difficult. I called our parents and told them I wouldn't be attending the family dinner that weekend if Sarah was invited. Mom sighed heavily. "Rachel, she's your sister, whatever is going on between you." "She deliberately sabotaged my business, Mom. This isn't sibling rivalry. This is my career." The silence stretched between us before Dad took the phone. "We'll talk to her," he promised, "but the dinner's still on and we expect both our daughters to be there." I hung up, knowing I'd have to face Sarah sooner than I wanted. Victor found me staring at the phone. "What's the plan?" he asked, his voice calm but his eyes burning with the same protective anger I'd seen when we first met 5 years ago, when my car broke down and he'd come to my rescue. "I'm going to that dinner," I said slowly, "and I'm bringing receipts." The week that followed was the longest of my life. I worked 18-hour days, reaching out to every contact in my network. Pamela spread the word about Sarah's underhanded tactics in professional circles. "Your sister doesn't realize how small the corporate world really is," she told me over lunch. "People talk." By Friday, not only was my Thompson Industries contract reinstated, but they doubled the number of events they wanted me to cover. 3 other corporate clients had signed on as well, each making a point to mention they'd heard about my professional integrity. The family dinner on Saturday loomed like a storm on the horizon. I dressed carefully in a simple black dress, professional but not showy. Victor wore his best shirt, the one that highlighted his broad shoulders. In his pocket was a flash drive containing everything: the messages, the contracts, the proof. "Are you sure about this?" he asked as we pulled into my parents' driveway. Sarah's new Mercedes was already parked there, gleaming in the evening light. "Absolutely," I replied, my voice steady. "Some things need to be said in person." The tension was palpable the moment we walked in. Sarah and Terrence were already seated in the living room, champagne flutes in hand. Sarah's smile faltered when she saw me, then returned with forced brightness. "Rachel, I was just telling Mom about Terrence's promotion. He's made partner at the hospital." Our cousin Lauren, always kind and genuine, turned to Victor. "How's work going? I heard your shop was expanding." Before Victor could answer, Sarah cut in with a smirk. "Oh, you're still at that garage. I thought you'd have moved on to something more professional by now. Terrence knows some people in hospital administration. Maybe he could help you find a real career." The room went silent. I watched Victor's knuckles whiten around his water glass, but his voice remained steady. "I appreciate the offer, Sarah, but I love what I do. Being a mechanic is a perfectly respectable career." Before Sarah could retort, Lucas, Victor's mentor and a father figure to him, spoke up from across the room. "Victor just saved the city bus company $50,000 by fixing a problem their so-called specialists couldn't figure out." Sarah rolled her eyes dramatically. "How fascinating. Speaking of transportation, Terrence, didn't you just get a call about a speaking engagement in Europe?" Dr. Terrence shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Actually, I had to decline. The timing wasn't right." "What do you mean you had to decline?" Sarah's voice rose sharply. "Sarah, perhaps we should discuss this later," Terrence muttered, loosening his tie. I caught Victor's eye across the room, a silent communication passing between us. The moment had arrived sooner than I'd expected. I cleared my throat. "Speaking of professional opportunities, I have some news of my own." I pulled out my tablet and set it on the coffee table. Thompson Industries not only reinstated my contract, but they doubled it. Their CEO was quite interested to learn about the ethical concerns someone raised about hiring me. Sarah's face drained of color. "I don't know what you're talking about." I tapped the screen, bringing up the text messages between her and Olivia. "I think you do." "You're going to trust the word of an amateur photographer over your own sister," Sarah scoffed, but her voice lacked conviction. "Actually," I continued, scrolling to the next screen, "Olivia was kind enough to provide these messages. You were quite detailed about your plan to sabotage my business." Our parents exchanged shocked glances as I continued. William Thompson also mentioned that he'd be discussing this with the hospital board. Apparently, ethical concerns are taken quite seriously there as well. Terrence's head snapped up. "What?" The dinner that followed was excruciating. Sarah barely touched her food while Terrence checked his phone repeatedly, his expression growing more concerned with each glance. After dessert, they announced they needed to leave early. "Terrence has an important meeting tomorrow," Sarah explained, fishing for her car keys. "Some of us have real responsibilities." As they drove off, the sound of their Mercedes making a horrible grinding noise stopped everyone mid-conversation. Moments later, it rolled to a halt halfway down the driveway. "This is ridiculous," Sarah's voice carried back to the house. "Terrence, call our dealer right now." "They're closed, Sarah. It's Sunday evening." "Well, we can't just stand here. Call a tow truck or something." From the porch, Victor exchanged a knowing glance with Lucas, but said nothing. Sarah's complaints echoed in the gathering darkness until Victor finally called out, "Need a ride home?" He wiped his hands on a napkin and strolled toward them. "I can have someone from the shop look at your car first thing tomorrow." "We are not letting some grease monkey touch our Mercedes," Sarah snapped. "We'll wait for professional service, thank you very much." Pamela, who'd been watching the scene unfold, leaned over and whispered to me, "Karma works fast these days." We left them waiting in the driveway, Sarah's voice growing shriller by the minute as she argued with Terrence about whose fault it was that they'd skipped the car's last scheduled maintenance. Monday morning, the unexpected call came from Terrence himself. "Listen, Victor, about the car. The dealership can't look at it until next week. I have critical patient appointments, and Sarah's furious. I hate to ask, but—" "I'll take care of it," Victor interrupted, his voice neutral. "Have it towed to the shop." An hour later, Sarah stormed into Lucas's auto shop as though she owned the place. "This is completely unacceptable. Do you even know how much this car costs?" "More than you can afford, apparently," Olivia chimed in from the waiting area. She'd brought her own car in for service and was watching the scene unfold with amusement. Victor emerged from under the Mercedes, wiping his hands and holding a tablet. "Your transmission has major issues and your brake lines are severely corroded. When's the last time you had it serviced?" "That's impossible," Sarah scoffed. "Terrence handles all that." "Actually," Terrence stepped forward hesitantly, "I've been meaning to tell you. We've had to postpone some maintenance. The hospital's been making cuts, and with the new house payments." "What are you talking about?" Sarah's voice was incredulous. "You're a doctor. You're a partner at the hospital." "Not exactly," Terrence admitted, loosening his tie again. "I was passed over for partner, the speaking engagement in Europe. It was a job interview. Sarah, we're in trouble." The color drained from Sarah's face. "This is ridiculous. We'll just buy a new car." "With what money?" Terrence's voice cracked. "We're already maxed out. The house is mortgaged to the limit. You're spending." "Don't you dare blame this on me," she snapped, turning on Victor. "This is probably some scam. He's just a mechanic. What does he know about luxury cars?" Lucas stepped out of his office, arms crossed. "Victor is certified for high-end European vehicles. He's one of only 3 mechanics in the state with that specific Mercedes certification. But if you don't want our help—" Sarah froze as Olivia chimed in. "The hospital board members bring their cars here. That's how I found this place. Dr. Patterson was just saying last week how impressed he was with Victor's work on his Porsche." Terrence grabbed Victor's arm. "Can you fix it?" "I have surgery scheduled. I can't lose any more credibility with the board." "Parts will be expensive," Victor said calmly, "and it'll take a few days to do it right." "Just do what you have to do," Terrence replied, handing over his credit card and ignoring Sarah's protests. Sarah stood there, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Every eye in the waiting room was on her, including several people she recognized from her social circle. "I'll wait in the car," she muttered. "Good luck with that," Olivia called after her. "It's not going anywhere." Over the next 3 days, Victor worked overtime on the Mercedes, meticulously repairing years of neglect. "The car is just a symptom," Victor explained, showing me the extent of the damage. "They've been living on appearances. Terrence is a good doctor, but Sarah pushed them into a lifestyle they couldn't afford." Word spread quickly through the hospital social circle. Pamela called to tell me Sarah had been notably absent from the weekly charity committee meeting. "Everyone's talking about how she lied about Terrence being made partner," she said. "The board members' wives are furious." Later, Olivia stopped by my studio with an update. "Sarah's been calling everyone, trying to do damage control, but you know what? People are more impressed by how Victor and Terrence handled everything. Dr. Patterson even asked me to pass his card to Victor. The hospital is looking for a new service contract for their ambulance fleet." The following week, Sarah showed up at our house alone. She looked different. No designer handbag, no meticulously styled hair. She sat stiffly on the couch, her posture as rigid as her expression. "I suppose you're happy now," she said, her voice bitter. "Everything's falling apart. Terrence insists we sell the house, says we need to live within our means. The hospital wives won't even return my calls." "That's not my fault, Sarah." "No, it's not," she admitted, twisting her wedding ring nervously. "Terrence showed me the repair bill. Victor charged less than the dealership would have. He did good work." Her voice softened, but only for a moment. "I'm not apologizing," she added quickly. I need a favor. The charity committee is organizing the hospital's annual fundraiser, and they need a photographer." "My schedule is fully booked," I replied, keeping my tone polite. "I just hired an assistant to help with all the new corporate contracts, but I heard Olivia's available." Sarah stood, smoothing down her off-the-rack dress. "Right, of course. I should go." I watched her walk to her car, now an ordinary Toyota, and drive away. Moments later, Victor pulled into the driveway in his work truck, the hospital's new service contract logo freshly painted on the side. "Lucas is letting you manage the hospital account?" I grinned. "We're hiring 2 more mechanics to handle the workload." That evening, Pamela and Olivia came over to celebrate. We sat in the backyard enjoying the simple pleasure of good friends and takeout pizza. "Did you hear?" Pamela asked, taking a sip of her drink. "Terrence finally stood up to Sarah. He's taking that position in Europe, said they need a fresh start. Sarah has to either go with him and live on a regular doctor's salary or stay here on her own." "Bafaisi." "Sometimes people create their own karma," Olivia mused. "All you have to do is let them." Victor squeezed my hand as we watched the sunset. We didn't need expensive cars or vacation homes. We had something far better: respect, honest work, and people who genuinely cared about us. In the end, that's what truly matters. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. 0 cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.